All right, you guys, what's up, man? What's happening? Yeah, I got the laptop out today. This one's going to be an interesting one. I just want to start with by saying what's happening. Please follow, like, subscribe, Treeline Podcast. This one, get your tin hats, boys and girls, because we're going deep today. And this one might take a little longer than normal, so make sure you got some time to sit down because we're going to break this document down. So, as we all know, or I'm sure you guys should be aware, as am I, that Joe Rogan just came out with a podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp talking about, so Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, they're like the ones pushing for disclosure like really hard. They're the ones that pushed for the whistleblower legislations. These are the guys that initially interviewed Ryan Graves, Captain David Fravor, and Grosh, the recent one, Grosh. All these three guys that just recently testified in front of that congressional hearing, that subcommittee. All right, bear with me. I'm getting through my my burps. All right. But check it out. So what was mentioned, I want to say about 2 hours into the podcast, George Knapp had mentioned a chapter of, I guess, a training manual that was used at the Air Force Academy. Okay, back in like the 1960s, 1970s. I guess more specifically 1966. This chapter was removed from that book. Now, the book was called Introductory Space Science Volume 2, okay? Now, in that book, Chapter 33 claims, makes some extraordinary claims. Now, listen, I would like to tell you to take this with a grain of salt, but we're going to look up the gentleman, this is all based off of supposed Air Force Academy like manuals that like were taught to like Air Force cadets like back in the 60s, like. And then I guess when the UFO community, I guess from what they said on Joe Rogan, I guess they got a hold of the chapter. Then the Air Force pulled the chapter, and they haven't seen it since. So I got some of that information. If you watched that podcast yesterday or the day before, whenever it came out. If you're interested in that subject, we're going to break it down today. Like I said, I'm going to go into this deep, man. Real deep. So let's go. All right. Now, this is by QFON, and I'm not sure that's CUFON. I think it's some kind of like one of those self-proclaimed UFO investigative agencies. I'm not sure what it stands for. It didn't even give me like a... Actually, let's find out real quick before I really get into it. What the hell is QFON? Other files directory, created data, UFO cat database provided to QFON. All right, so QFON, I guess, is like it's a UFO database, computer UFO network. Computer UFO network, QFON.org. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Computer UFO network. All right, so this is what's been on the official QFON.org website for some time now. I guess this has been out for quite some time. News to me, however, and news to a lot of you guys if this is all news to you. Because remember, disclosure is still a very new thing, still coming about. All right, so, but some stuff here. Now let's get into it. All right, like I said, this is credited to QFON. Mr. Jim Klotz wrote this. Okay, so I'm not stealing or plagiarizing. Okay, this is written by Jim Klotz, and this is copyrighted by QFON. All right. So it's titled Introductory Space Science, Volume 2, Unidentified Flying Objects, Department of Physics, U.S. Air Force, United States Air Force Academy. Dude, what the? All right, let's go. All right, it has been known for some time that during the I want to get comfortable. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, the U.S. Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs had some material on UFOs in its curriculum. The chapter of the textbook Introductory Space Science. All right, and that's volume 2 if you're looking for it. For the Class Physics 370 has been posted on QFON's website. They're just introducing this information. But a lot of the information that's introductory here is pretty important. So listen in. This file contains expanded coverage, including newspaper articles from the Lemoore Advance, a letter of reply from the Air Force Academy, transmitting copies of the 2 versions of Chapter 33. Chapter 33 as it was in use from 1968 to 1970, and the revised Chapter 33 placed in use for the fall quarter of 1970. So I guess once, like they said, right? I guess it got pulled from this curriculum. It got pulled from the curriculum once the UFO crazies got a hold of the information. So, all right. Air Academy textbook urges more study of UFO sightings. All right, by Ted Hubbard. And I guess Ted Hubbard, I'm not sure. See, all this is what I want to talk about. Major Kilpatrick. Now, I want to look up this dude, Major Kilpatrick. I want to look up at least his Wikipedia and see how credible he is, because this information I'm about to read is quoted from Kilpatrick. All right, so Kilpatrick was I'm about to find out, in some kind of association with the Air Force. I'm sure he was a major of the Air Force, right? Major Kilpatrick, 1960s Air Force. Yeah, because if we can get some credentials on him, that would make this the rest of what we're about to discover in this article more compelling. Now it's showing me, let's see, archives, Robert J. Kirkpatrick, South Carolina. Is this? I don't think that's Introductory Space Science, right? Who's this cat? Robert J. Kilpatrick, Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, 18th Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, 363rd. All right, so here's his credentials, okay? 17th Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, 18th Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, 363rd Tactical Reconnaissance Wing, and then a bunch of different numbers. I'm not familiar too much with squadrons and wings and stuff. I'm just reading you some of the units he was attached to. And then a couple other names here that he was attached to, I guess. Dude, if this... Yo, I hate the internet, bro. All right. Major Kilpatrick, second ranking officer. Craig Air. Kilpatrick, Sir William John Kilpatrick. I don't think that's him either. Nah. I don't know, man. It just seems like there's not a lot of information on the guy. Now I'm starting to question this whole thing. 1960s Air Force Academy. What? Dude. I don't know, man. All right, well, I'm going to go through this anyways, because if it was credible enough to bring up on Joe Rogan, then let's go. All right. Students at the U.S. Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs are being taught to stop scoffing at the mention of UFOs or flying saucers and to keep an open mind on the subject. Remember, this was in the 60s, all right? So basically saying back in the 60s that they called it still flying saucers, right? So there's still flying saucers back then in the 60s. All right, this was made clear last Thursday in an interview given by Major Stuart Kilpatrick, God, man, Deputy Director of Public Information of the Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs, to the Lemoore Advance in a lengthy and exclusive phone interview. All right, so Major Stuart Kilpatrick, he was the Deputy Director of Public Information. Now we're getting somewhere. We're actually getting Major... All right. No, Major Stuart... Yeah. No. Stuart Kirkpatrick, dude. And this is even Google. This ain't even, what's that other crap? MSN? Fucking Microsoft? Stuart. Oh, I wasn't spelling it right. All right, here we go. More like it. Wikipedia, William Kilpatrick Stewart. All right. Vice Marshal, something to early life, career, honors, death, legacy. Stewart was awarded. What about Air Force Academy, dude? Why is that not Royal Aeronautical Society? Okay, here we go. Stewart was invested as a commander of the Order of the... What? Dude, this is... Fucking throw this thing out the window, dude. God. I need like a researcher, bro. God, man. Major Stewart Kirkpatrick is giving me U.S. Air Force, bro. It's giving me some British shit, dude. Is my IP coming from Britain, dude? It's fucking bullshit, dude. Come on, man. Let's use our brains, Google. Stupid girl. Stupid whatever. You know? Got it. Really. Wow. It's really hard to find information on this guy. So I don't know. Hey, man. Remember, for years there, they were trying to suppress a lot of disclosure for, decades. So maybe that's why it's hard to find shit on him. I don't know. Anyways, that way, I fucking hate how much time that kind of bullshit wastes. I'm sorry, guys. All right. So let's move forward. Major Kilpatrick, as second-ranking officer in public affairs in the Air Force Academy, is in a position to speak authoritatively for the Air Force. He admitted at once that plebs, I guess that's like the Air Force Academy cadets. Are they called plebes or plebs? Or maybe they were back in the 60s. I don't know. Are taught from a text entitled Introductory Space Science Volume 2. An entire chapter 33 deals entirely with UFO considerations. He quoted from page 455 that 50,000 virtually reliable people have reported sightings unidentified sightings of unidentified flying objects. Sorry, you guys, I can't read. All right. So this leaves us with the unpleasant possibility of alien visitors to our planet. And then the 14-page chapter continues, or at least alien-controlled UFOs. All right, so basically at the beginning of the chapter kind of talks, it seems like it's talking about how, listen, man, this is reality, so fucking figure it out. Or not figure it out, but figure it out with your I don't know, make peace with it, man. It just is, basically, is what it seems like the beginning of the chapter 33 was in that textbook. According to the Academy textbook, if such beings are visiting the Earth, two questions arise. All right, and these are the two questions that was in a freaking Air Force Academy curriculum, right, back in the 60s. All right, so these are the two questions that we had in the 60s. That supposedly, I guess, were not answered or have not yet been answered, but whatever. This was the information we were giving to our Air Force cadets in the 60s. Like the men we trust to protect our lives with fucking airplanes and big guns. You know what I'm saying? So, like, this is what we were telling them to look out for. Just remember that, all right? Okay, so one, remember, now they're saying that there's only like two questions that come up. Question number one. Why haven't they attempted to contact us officially? Good question. Like, why? Why haven't they attempted to contact us officially? I feel like that's a legitimate question. And then two, why haven't there been accidents which would have revealed their presence? All right. Good questions, man. It seems like if you're that far advanced in technology and I don't know, evolution, that you just might not crash planes. Or crash your vehicle very often. You might just be beyond that, like evolutionarily speaking. You know what I mean? Like that could be an answer to number two, but an answer to number one, they kind of get into it in the next paragraph, which is kind of freaky. Why no contact? Remember that first question was, why don't they officially make contact? Why no contact? The question is very easy to answer in any of several ways. One, we may be the object of an intensive sociological and psychological study. In such studies, you usually avoid disturbing the test subject's environment. And that's true, man. Like, is that not, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but when you're doing research and studies, you do your best not to disturb the subjects, right? Like, that made a lot of sense to me when they said that. But it makes you think too, like, to every science experiment, there's always an end to it. So maybe that's why disclosure doesn't happen. If that's the legitimate reason that we are a science experiment, maybe that's why disclosure doesn't happen, because then, obviously if you realize you're a part of a research, science experiment, then I mean you're gonna and that like there's no God now, there's nothing, there's nowhere to go after this. It's just we're a big science experiment to see if something works for some other intelligence. We're not even really here for us. Like everything here is just kind of what we invented, and then they're just kind of the outside looking in, taking notes. You know what I'm saying? So, and then who knows? Maybe that study, like I said, comes to an end at some point, and if it does, maybe that's why disclosure doesn't happen, because if the whole world realizes that this all comes to an end, eventually, like what's the point? You know what I mean? I'm thinking that sounds like it makes sense. So number 3, such contact may have already taken place secretly and may have taken place on a different plane of awareness, and we are not yet sensitive to communications on such a plane. All right, so maybe like, I don't know, psychedelics, man. Maybe we have to get to a different. Maybe you just have to get really on DMT or something. Maybe you have to put your mind somewhere else to even fucking communicate with these things, to even see them, man. Like I said, get your 10 hats today, man, because maybe that's the only way to do it. Maybe that's the only way they can communicate with us, or the only way we can communicate with them. Otherwise, the ball's in their court constantly. You know what I mean? It's entirely up to them if they're watching us. It's not our choice if we can watch them. Maybe the only way we can get into that choice of watching them is to be, on some of these, mind-altering substances or something, man. So that's interesting. All right, so let's see. So remember, this was an interview with Major Kirkpatrick. So I guess this paragraph, in releasing this interview in the Lemore Advance, I guess was the paper it was released in, or whatever, magazine or whatever it was released in. Lemore Advance. What the hell? What kind of magazine is it? Let's take a look at Lemore Advance real quick. Lemore. What the hell, dude? All right, Advance, bro. Lemore Advance. Yeah, it was a paper. It was a newspaper. Newspaper archive. Okay. All right. So that was a newspaper back in the 60s. All right. In releasing this interview in the Lemore Advance, we are well aware that many readers will certainly raise an eyebrow or two, but Major Kilpatrick insisted the above chapter in the text is not a fairy story. At the end, he seemed to go along with the recommendations of the physics textbook, which advises Air Force officers as follows. The best thing to do is to keep an open and skeptical mind and not take an extreme position on any side of the question. Yeah, man. Just basically saying it just kind of is what it is, Just get over it. Like, it seems like that's what Chapter 33 was for, because nowadays, like, you got all these pilots who are coming up like, hey, what the hell is this thing? And, they're whistleblowing, and there's legislation for them to do it. What if there was just a chapter in some textbook they read, like, in pilot school, that's just like, hey, just get over it. It just kind of is what it is. There'd probably be a lot less whistleblowers now if they had left that chapter in there. But obviously, the chapter, if it would have made it to the Air Force Academy to all these cadets, it would have been obviously just, the world would have seen it. The world would have known eventually a lot sooner than having pulled it out like they did. But they must have known that having pulling out this chapter, that eventually is going to lead to people questioning what the fuck are these things in the sky. And then I don't know if they did like a futuristic assessment, but eventually people are going to want to be heard about this, maybe 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 years in the future. And sure enough, that's what happened. Now people want to be heard. They want to go in front of Congress to talk about it. But had this chapter just remained, maybe it would have remained disclosed longer. All right. Introduction to Space Science closes the chapter with the wish expressed that renewed extensive investigation to all right, so it's not just me reading. Whoever put this together is not a great typer either. All right. So, Introductory Space Science closes the chapter with the wish expressed that renewed extensive investigation be given to the possibility of UFOs. This will require expenditure of a considerable sum of government funds, it explained, and in the present public attitude of scorn and ridicule whenever UFOs are mentioned, such possibility seems almost hopeless, the chapter laments. As most people know, the Dr. Eugene Yu that's his name. Dr. Eugene Yu Condon investigation was closed down by the Pentagon, and no present official scientific investigation is now operating in this field. In 1966, we talked with 6 different Air Force pilots at Travis Air Force Base who claimed to have seen UFOs but stated they did not dare report them for fear of extreme ridicule. At least in 1970, this Air Force attitude seems to have changed, as indicated by Major Kilpatrick interview with the Advance. Lemure's representative at the Colorado Springs Academy is Steve Moon Mullins, former basketball star on the Tiger team and alumnus of Lemure High. We are asking him his opinion of his science text presentation of the so-called UFO. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Sorry, I read it. I don't know what that. Look, man, maybe I'm just a hard interpreter. Like, it's hard for me to interpret different things. I don't know what the hell that basketball player, Steve Mullins, has to do with fucking anything. Steve Moon Mullins. Do I have to look up this dude, too? Steve Moon Mullins. Obituary. Yeah, there's just a bunch of dudes named Steve Mullins. That's just weird. I don't know why he's in there. Department of Air Force, Headquarters, United States Air Force Academy, U.S. Air Force Academy, Colorado. All right. Reply to attention. Oh, okay. Subject UFO. All right. So it looks like they asked for some information, but there was something. I don't want to get too much into this other crap. It just seems like they keep on trying to ask the Air Force for information. The Air Force keeps on giving them a runaround. But there was like something interesting. I want to say it was like, was it 456 or 4? Wait a minute. Man, there was. Oh man, I'm gonna really hate this stupid thing if it doesn't work with me. Okay. Wow. All right. So in this chapter, wow, dude. All right. Okay, here we go. Here's some shit in the chapter. Flight characteristics: wobbling, fluttering. These are all behaviors that are listed here. One of the greatest problems you encounter when attempting to catalog UFO sightings is selection of a system for cataloging. No effective system has yet been devised, although a number of different systems have been proposed. The net result is that almost all UFO data are either treated in the form of individual cases or in the form of inadequate classification systems. However, these systems do tend to have some common factors, and collection of these factors is as follows: size, shape, luminosity, color, number of UFOs, behavior, location, patterns of paths, flight characteristics, periodicity of sightings, time duration, curiosity or inquisitiveness. I guess these things are just as curious in us as we are of them, if that's what that means. These are all like things that they initially wanted to start, like a reporting program, I guess, in Chapter 33. That's what they were talking about. And these are some of the notes they would take if they had like a close encounter, I guess. Avoidance, hostility, associated effects, electromagnetic, compass, radio, ignition systems. So effects to their equipment, to the U.S. Air Force's equipment, radiation, burns, induced radioactivity. So back in the 60s, we were like almost like we could like we were kind of getting the steps in motion, but it got stomped on. But we were trying to get the steps in motion of like a reporting procedure, and one of the things is radiation and burns associated with radiation. So that just tells you like the Air Force was aware in the 60s that radiation given off these fucking things would fucking burn you. So like that, I mean, that's crazy. Ground disturbance, sound, vibration, smell, flame, smoke and cloud, debris, inhalation of voluntary movements by inhibition of voluntary movement by observers. I don't know what the fuck that means. Sighting of creatures or beings, dog. And to this day, like, people reporting they see shit flying these fucking things. And back in the 60s, they knew there were fucking creatures or beings like in these fucking things. After effects, burned areas of animals, depressed or flattened areas, dead or missing animals, mentally disturbed people. Bro, mentally disturbed people? Damn. Missing items. All right. All right, so here we go. We make no attempt here to present available data in terms of foregoing descriptors. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so I'm reading into the chapter now. Operational domains, temporal and spatial. Bruh. All right, so I'm not sure. This camera here has like a 30-minute limit, but it's been going over longer lately, so I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just going to let it roll. I'm going to check here shortly. If it's off, I'm going to get up and turn it on. Otherwise, let's roll. All right. What we will do here is to present evidence that UFOs are a global phenomenon which may have persisted for many thousands of years. During this discussion, please remember that the more ancient the reports, the less sophisticated the observer. What? Persisted for many thousands of years. And then it says, during this discussion, please remember that the more ancient the reports, the less sophisticated the observer. Okay, let's push further, man. Now we're talking about, like, what? Like, who reported? The Romans? Who reported? Native Americans? Who reported that we have, like, reports from that we are claiming could potentially not be accurate because they're so fucking long ago? Let's push further. All right. Not only were the ancient observers lacking the terminology necessary to describe complex devices such as present-day helicopters, but they were also lacking the concepts necessary to understand the true nature of such things as television, spaceships, rockets, nuclear weapons, and radiation effects. So there's been descriptions of things. That's what the U.S. government had in that Chapter 33. There's been descriptions that we've collected, ancient descriptions that we've found, maybe in, I don't know, I've said it before, but potentially archaeological sites. I'm sure they found, some, who knows, firsthand witness testimony that could be just ancient, just old, just written, you know what I mean, or whatever. Basically, they're seeing shit they couldn't explain either, right? So let's push further, man. This is insane right here. It's insane that this was getting pushed to cadets at the Air Force Academy in the 60s. To some, the most advanced technological concept was a war chariot with knife blades attached to the wheels. These guys, that's how we say, hey, man, I seen a light flying in the sky. These guys were like, we seen war chariots with knife blades coming from. Dude, the verbiage is different. The times are different. Back then, it was just much more not so calm. You know what I mean? There was a lot more crazy. I mean, I'm not sure exactly. See, again, I'm getting too, like, sucked into this. We don't know specifically who they're talking about when they say somebody had made that description, right? Who knows if it was 2,000 years ago, 10,000, 1,000, who knows? Let's push further. Oh, my goodness. By the same token, the very lack of accurate terminology and descriptions leaves the more ancient reports open to considerable misinterpretation. Okay. And it may well be that present evaluations of individual reports are completely wrong. Nevertheless, let us start with an intriguing story in one of the oldest chronicles of India, the Book of Dzyan. Book of Dzyan. D-Z-Y-A-N. All right. So they're in the Chapter 33, in this Air Force Academy textbook, they are about to crack open some ancient text and talk about it in a textbook that they were giving to Air Force cadets in the 60s. All right. The book is a group of storyteller legends which were finally gathered in manuscript form when man learned to write. One of the stories is of a small group of beings who supposedly came to Earth many thousands of years ago in a metal craft which orbited the Earth several times before landing. As told in the book, wait, what? One of the stories is of a small group of beings who supposedly came to Earth many thousands of years ago in a metal craft which orbited the Earth several times before landing. Bro, what the fuck were these people seeing, man? Like, it's insane. I can't believe that. That's still recording? All right, let's roll. That's in freaking insane. Something. They didn't know what it was, but they knew enough to write it down or to create a story, I guess, about it. Again, it's so long ago, you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt. Okay, hang on. This one stopped. All right, so let me just pause real quick. Pause. No problem. All right, so I went to press record again. That it's set to I guess because 30 minutes it just burns out. It's just the camera's too overheated. But this one's good. It's a long runner, and this one hopefully is good too. Let me double check. Yeah, we're good. All right, let's keep rolling. All right. Okay. All right. Again, like I said, we can't really take these stories for granted just yet because they're thousands of years old, and there's not really much credit we can put to the storytellers, right? So let's push a little further just to see what text was left, from our past generations, whether we trust them or not. Okay. As told in the book, these beings lived to themselves and were revered by the humans among whom they had settled. But eventually differences arose among them, and they divided their numbers. Several of the men and women and some children settled in another city, where they were promptly installed as rulers by the awe-stricken populace. Wow. It looks like they came down as some kind of noble leadership. Kings, queens, I don't know. Something. I don't know. But they came down as something, and it seems like they kind of fortified a spot, maybe just to get logistics and everything together, and then they went out to the local populace and took leadership roles. That's what it sounds like. They came in, set up a fob, and made a plan, and pushed out to different villages and took over leadership. That's what it fucking sounds like. Let's push forward. Separation did not bring peace to these people, and finally their anger reached a point where the ruler of the original city took with him a small number of his warriors, and they rose into the air. They rose into the air in a huge shining metal vessel. What? While they were many leagues from the city of their enemies, they launched a great shining lance that rode on a beam of light. It burst apart in the city of their enemies with a great ball of flame that shot up to the heavens, almost to the stars. All those who were in the city were horribly burned, and even those who were not in the city but nearby were burned also. Those who looked upon the lance and the ball of fire were blinded forever afterward. Those who entered the city on foot became ill and died. Even the dust of the city was poisoned, as were the rivers that flowed through it. Men dared not to go near it, and it gradually crumbled into dust and was forgotten by man. Radiation. They took the opposers, they put them on a fucking metal ship and blew them up in the sky, and all the remnants from that explosion, it sounds like it was poison dust. That's radiation, dog. Yeah, they didn't have the words to describe it, but they described it nonetheless. When the leader saw what he had done to his own people, he retired to his palace and refused to see any more. When he gathered about him those warriors who remained, and their wives and children, and they entered their vessels and rose one by one into the sky and sailed away. Nor did they return. Let me reread that. What the fuck did I just miss? When the leader saw what he had done to his own people, he retired to his palace and refused to see any more. When he gathered about him those warriors who remained, he there and their wives and children, and they entered their vessels and rose one by one into the sky and sailed away, nor did they return. Okay, so I guess the aliens left. Is that what he's trying to say? It's hard to tell. Could this foregoing legend really be an account of an extraterrestrial colonization complete with guided missile, nuclear warhead, and radiation effects? It is difficult to assess the validity of that explanation, just as it is difficult to explain why. All right, I'm going to take a quick break because I think we're overheating in some spots. Let me take a quick break like 20 minutes, and I'll come back and we'll hit it, okay? All right, I'm going to jump right into it. I don't want to waste too much time, but yeah, this is the second half of episode 31. Let's roll. All right. Greek, Roman, and Nordic mythology all discuss wars and contacts among their gods. Even the Bible records conflict between legions of God and Satan. Could it be that each group recorded their parochial view of what was actually a global conflict among alien colonists or visitors? Or is it that man has led such violent existence that he tends to expect conflict and violence among even his gods? That's an existential question if I ever heard one. Okay, let me break that down real quick. I guess the Greek, Roman, and the Nordic mythology, there's a lot of war, they're saying, or a lot of fights with their gods and their legends and their stories. And there's a good chance that those could have been extraterrestrial colonists that they were fighting, or when they describe things like with golden chariots, or not golden chariot, it was a bright shining, or chariots of fire with knives and stuff. I mean, it could have just been their extravagant description of fighting another tribe or something as well. So we really don't know. I like that they put that in there because, I mean, the fact is in the 60s they just didn't know. At least in the Air Force Academy they didn't know, so they didn't push anything stupid, anything that they couldn't back up, which who knows if they can back any of this shit up. But let's push a little further here. Wow. All right, here we go. Only 8,000 years ago, rocks were sculpted in the Tassili Plateau of the Sahara, depicting what appeared to be human beings, but with strange round heads, maybe helmets, or sun heads on human bodies. Okay. And even more recently in the Bible, Genesis 6:4 tells of angels from the sky mating with women of earth. Mating. Sorry, guys. Mating with women of earth. That, I mean, correlates with Zeus, right? Isn't there a legend about Zeus having babies with, was that Alexander the Great? Wasn't his mother, didn't she supposedly claim that she slept with Zeus one night and that's where Alex came from? I think. Anyways, just weird how a lot of these stories are kind of still they're looking at, the federal government looked at critically enough to put in a fucking textbook at the Air Force Academy in the 60s. Remember, these cadets were the people we trust, right? Enough with our fucking fighter jets, at least in the 60s, our fighter planes, we trusted them enough with our airspace. We trusted them with our airspace, which, whether you want to believe it or not, you're trusting them with your life if you trust them with your airspace. And this is what they were teaching the cadets, that we trusted with our lives back in the 60s. Remember, this chapter was pulled. Anyways, I'm not going to recap a lot because this is just rolling right into the second half, all right? All right, and let's move forward. Genesis 19:3 tells of Lot meeting two angels in the desert and his later feeding them at his house. Very weird. I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with the Bible, besides what I learned in Bible school when I was a kid, but I don't know if somebody can elaborate on that maybe in Genesis. The Bible also tells a rather unusual story of Ezekiel, who witnessed what has been interpreted by some to have been a spacecraft or aircraft landing near Chabar River in Chaldea in 593 BC. Dude, all this crap is insane. It's for years, I always attributed crazy stories that I couldn't explain to maybe they were writing stuff in the Bible, or there was legends that had to do with maybe they didn't see angels, maybe they saw aliens. I always thought that since I was a kid, man. It turns out so did the federal government back in the 60s, you know what I mean? Even the Irish have recorded strange visitations. In the Speculum Regale in Conungs, Skugza, and other accounts of the era about 956 AD, so this is just over 1,000 years ago, all right, are numerous stories of demon ships in the skies. Bro, demon ships in the skies. In one case, a rope from one such ship became entangled with part of a church. A man from the ship climbed down the rope to free it, but was seized by the townspeople. The bishop made the people release the man, who climbed back to the ship, where the crew cut the rope and the ship rose and sailed out of sight. In all of his actions, the climbing man appeared as if he were swimming in air. Stories such as this makes one wonder if the legends of the little people of Ireland were based upon imagination alone. Little people. Oh, are they talking about like leprechauns? Are they calling leprechauns aliens, dude? Bruh. That's insane. That's insane. All right, let's keep rolling. About the same time, the Lyons, France. So I guess in Lyons, France, I'm not sure. Maybe that's what it used to be called back in the 1740s. I'm not sure. Anyways, this one specifically takes place in the 1740s. I'm just reading a little ahead. Like all this I'm reading to you, I have not read yet. I did not read it offline. I wanted to experience it firsthand with you guys. So I've not read this at all. I just know that it's about 10 to 15 pages. That's all I know. So we're rolling through this deleted chapter, right? All right. So in France, 3 men and a woman supposedly descended from an airship or spaceship and were captured by a mob. These foreigners admitted to being wizards and were killed. No mention is made of the methods employed to extract the admissions. What, dude? Are you kidding me? So now we've got records out of France saying that 3 things came out of the sky and claimed they were wizards, and France killed them. Dude. Oh my goodness. All right. Many documented UFO sightings occurred throughout the Middle Ages, including an especially startling one of a UFO over London on 16 December 1742. However, we do not have room to include any more of the Middle Ages sightings. Instead, 2 more recent sightings are contained in this section to bring us up to modern times. Okay, dude, look at this. This paragraph right here, or the end of this paragraph. However, we do not have room to include any more of the Middle Ages sightings. There's a shit ton we got. We just didn't put them in the chapter, bro. Come on, man. There's information the fucking federal government has, bro, that they choose to fucking hide. And they even hid, they showed some to cadets in the 1966 at the Air Force Academy, but most of that shit they keep hidden. And they said it right here. Sorry. Let's keep rolling. In a sworn statement dated 21 April 1897, a prosperous and prominent farmer named Alexander Hamilton in Kansas told of an attack upon his cattle at about 10:30 p.m. the previous Monday. He, his son, and his tenant grabbed axes and ran some 700 feet from the house to the cow lot, where a great cigar-shaped ship about 300 feet long floated some 30 feet above the cattle. It had a carriage underneath, which was brightly lighted with an dirigible and gondola. Oh, they're saying it looked like a dirigible or a gondola. A dirigible is like the Goodyear blimp. That's a dirigible, if you guys aren't aware. It's just big floating balloons that carry people. That's what a dirigible is. I guess that's what they're making it sound like they described it as. Inside were 6 strange-looking beings jabbering in a foreign language. Bruh. This was Alexander Hamilton? No fucking way. That's not Alexander Hamilton, bro. Hold up. What? Alexander Hamilton. Not Alexander Hamilton, bro. Not the original Alexander Hamilton, bro. No. This is Alexander Hamilton's account, dude? No fucking way. What year did Alexander Hamilton live, dude? I'm sorry, I'm not historically privy. He was born in 1757 and died in 1804. Okay, that doesn't make sense. That's not Alexander. Okay, chill out, you guys. There's a different Alexander Hamilton. I was about to say that would have made it 10 times more credible to me. Anyways, let's move forward. It's a different Alexander Hamilton, different time frame, different person. All right, going forward. All right, so they saw the six something-looking beings in there speaking a foreign language. Those beings suddenly became aware of Hamilton and the others. They immediately turned a searchlight on the farmer and also turned on some power, which sped up a turbine wheel about 30 feet in diameter, located under the craft. The ship rose, taking with it a 2-year-old heifer, which was roped about the neck by a cable of 1/2 inch thick, red material. A heifer, I believe that's a cow. So it took a cow right in front of this guy back in 1897. This is a recorded incident from 1897. This is before the 1940s, before Roswell, before we started nuking each other, before all those sightings came. This is 1897, dude. All right, let's keep pushing, man. All right, so the next day, a neighbor, Link Thomas, found the animal's hide, legs, and head in his field. He was mystified at how the remains got to where they were going, or got to. Sorry, I'm trying to read this. I just want to read it really fast. So I'm skipping over shit. He was mystified at how the remains got to where they were because of the lack of tracks in the soft soil. Alexander Hamilton's sworn statement was accompanied by an affidavit as to his veracity. The affidavit was signed by 10 of the local leading citizens. That is fucking credible, bro. That's credible. 1897, that meets credibility standards to me from 1897. I'm sorry. 10 of the leading townsfolk signed off on an affidavit saying this dude was scared shitless. Bro, yo, I'm getting goosebumps, dog. I can't believe I never fucking discovered this document till now. On the evening of 4 November 1957 at Fort Itaipu, Brazil, 2 sentries noted a new star in the sky. The star grew in size and within seconds stopped over the fort. It drifted slowly downward, was as large as a big aircraft, and was surrounded by a strong orange glow. A distinct humming sound was heard, and then the heat struck. One sentry collapsed almost immediately, and others managed to slide to shelter under the heavy cannons, which his loud cries awoke the garrison. So so I guess this night, November 4th, 1957, these guys saw some shit and got so fucking scared. They screamed so fucking loud, they woke up everybody sleeping in either squad bays or barracks, wherever they were at, whatever garrison style sleeping conditions they had, but woke everybody up, freaking out in the middle of the night in 1957. There was, while the troops were scrambling towards their battle stations, complete electrical failure occurred. Bruh. If that happened to me at Lejeune or on a FOB in Afghanistan, bro, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I'd be writing a fucking book right now. Well, honestly, obviously not. I'd have to go through the whistleblower legislation. But still, I mean, these are incredible stories, man. I'm surprised that these aren't being talked about more often. Jesus Christ, bro. There was panic until the lights came back on, but a number of men still managed to see an orange glow leaving the area at high speed. Both sentries were found badly burned, one unconscious and the other incoherent, suffering from deep shock. Thus, UFO sightings not only appear to extend back to 47,000 years. Dude, this came out of a fucking textbook by the United States Air Force. They were giving to their fucking cadets at the Air Force Academy in 1966. Thus, UFO sightings not only appear to extend back to 47,000 years through time, but also are global in nature. One has the feeling that this phenomena deserves some sort of valid scientific investigation, even if it is a low level effort. Someone's got to look into it. That's all he's saying. There's so much crazy shit going on. The textbook literally said someone's got to look into it. Even if it's a small effort, we got to put some kind of effort into it. That was back in 1966. So we've been putting effort into searching into this shit. Anyways, some theories as to the nature of the UFO phenomena. So here are some theories. This is all still part of the same chapter that was torn out of that textbook, okay? There are very few cohesive theories as to the nature of UFOs. Those theories that have been advanced can be collected in 5 groups. Okay, here we go. Mysticism, hoaxes and rantings due to unstable personalities, secret weapons, national phenomena, alien visitors. Those are the 5 theories, right? There are very few cohesive theories as to the nature of UFOs. Those theories that have been advanced can be collected into those 5 groups: mysticism, hoaxes, or crazy people, basically, secret weapons, national phenomena, alien and visitors. So right now, I think in 2023, we're kind of down to those last 3. Secret phenomena, national phenomena, or secret weapons, national phenomena, alien visitors. The other 2, I think, are obviously mysticism. Maybe back in the 60s and 70s that flew, but we're all a little bit smarter, a little bit more, I guess, awake to what's been hidden from us. So a little bit more closer to disclosure. I can say that mysticism's kind of to the wayside. Same with hoaxes. We kind of know when we see a hoax nowadays. It's easy, not easy, but we are now more as an individual, not just like if even if you're a journalist, but even as an individual person, individual citizen of the United States, you have more skills collecting confirmed information now than anybody in the history of the United States. Every single individual person has more skills and tools and resources to do so, to confirm to confirm fucking anything with the tools we have. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I think it's fair to say that it's easy to find a hoax nowadays. Those get debunked pretty quickly. And then it just kind of goes into what mysticism, what hoaxes are. But yeah, here's some stories. All right, mysticism. It is believed by some cults that the mission of UFOs and their crews is a spiritual one, and that all materialistic efforts to determine the UFO's natures are doomed to failure. That's the mystic, I guess, outlook. Hoaxes and rantings due to unstable personalities. Some have suggested that all UFO reports were the results of pranks or hoaxes. Okay, so that I really don't give a shit about, because we all know what a hoax is. National phenomena or natural phenomena. It has also been suggested that at least some and possibly all of the UFO cases were just misinterpreted manifestations of natural phenomena. Undoubtedly, this suggestion has some merit. People have reported as UFOs objects which were conclusively proven to be balloons, weather, and skyhook balloons. The planet Venus. That planet Venus thing, dude, that's another story which I'll get into. I'm not going to do a part 3 to this. That'll deserve its own episode. But there was a pilot, a recorded incident with a pilot. I believe it was in the 40s or 50s or something. But they found one of these things on radar, because back then they only had regular radar, and they were able to catch up with it. Upon firing on it, it fired back. All right, and this is all recorded. Like they talked about it too on the Joe Rogan podcast with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. They also spoke about that specific incident. But I'm gonna dig deeper into that incident on a different episode because that is extremely intriguing as well. But that kid died. That pilot died, dude. That American fucking Air Force pilot was killed by a fucking UAP, and we're all just hearing about it fucking yesterday when that episode of Joe Rogan came out. So it's like, what the fuck? Alien visitors. Anyways, let's move on. The most stimulating theory for us in the UFO. For us is that the UFOs are material objects which are either manned or remote controlled by beings who are alien to this planet. There is some evidence supporting this viewpoint. In addition to Police Sergeant Lonnie Zamora's experience, let us consider the case of Barney and Betty Hill, which I know a lot of people know about. I'm not too well versed on it, but I do know that they were supposedly abducted off a road by their vehicle, like their own car. On a trip through New England, they lost 2 hours on the night of September 1961 without even realizing it. However, after that night, both Barney and Betty began developing psychological problems, which eventually grew sufficiently severe that they submitted themselves to psychiatric examination and treatment. During the course of treatment, hypnotherapy was used, and it yielded remarkably detailed and similar stories from both Barney and Betty. Essentially, they had been hypnotically kidnapped, taken aboard a UFO, submitted to 2-hour physicals, and released with post-hypnotic suggestions to forget the entire incident. The evidence is rather strong that this is what the Hills, even in their subconscious, believed happened to them. And it is of particular importance that after a post-hypnotic block was removed, both of the Hills ceased having their psychological problems. Bruh. All right, so Barney and Betty Hill, maybe one day I'll get into that story too. It seems interesting, but But again, that little summary of that story made it into a textbook in front of the eyes of Air Force cadets at the Air Force Academy in 1966. That's credible to me, dude. That's credible to me. Moving forward, the Hill's description of the aliens was similar to descriptions provided in other cases, but this particular type of alien appears to be in the minority. The most commonly described alien is about 3.5 feet tall, has a round head, possibly a helmet, we don't know, arms reaching to or below his knees, and is wearing a silvery spacesuit or coveralls. Other aliens appear to be essentially the same as Earthmen, while still others have particularly wide wrap-around eyes and mouths with very thin lips, and there is a rare group reported as about 4 feet tall and weighs around 35 pounds and covered with thick hair or fur clothing. Now it's getting into these different types of aliens, man. It's fucking weird. Members of this last group are described as being extremely strong. Here we go. If such beings are visiting Earth, two questions arise. Why haven't there been any accidents which have revealed their presence? And two, why haven't they attempted to contact us officially? Yeah, we talked about that a little earlier. The answer to the first question may exist partially in Sergeant Lonnie Zamora's experience and may exist partially in the Tunguska meteor discussed in chat. Bruh, the Tunguska meteor incident was like 1910, 12, something like that, where in, I guess it was somewhere in Siberia, this meteor came and exploded and knocked down like tens of thousands of trees. They're talking about that right now, so let's get into that. In that chapter, it was suggested that the Tunguska meteor was actually a comet which exploded in the atmosphere. The ice is melted and the dust spread out, hence no debris. However, it has also been suggested that the Tunguska meteor was actually an alien spacecraft that entered the atmosphere too rapidly, suffered mechanical failure, and lost its power supply and or weapons in a nuclear explosion. While the hypothesis may seem far-fetched, sample of tree rings from around the world revealed that immediately after the Tunguska meteor explosion, the level of radioactivity in the world rose sharply for a short period of time. It is difficult to find a natural explanation for that increase in radioactivity, although the suggestion has been advanced that enough of the meteor's great kinetic energy was converted into heat by atmospheric friction that a fusion reaction occurred, which this still leaves us with no answers to the second question, why no contact? The question is all right, I'm going to disregard, I don't believe that Tunguska was a spacecraft. I think that was a meteor, and this is back in 66, so maybe they just didn't know yet. But I think it's pretty strongly argued that the Tunguska situation was a meteor that exploded and took down tens of thousands of trees. And I guess incident that big might have rose radiation levels across the planet. I don't know. I'm not too scientific when it comes to that kind of stuff. But let's just go forward. The question is very easy to answer in several ways. And this question is why no contact. All right. So number one. We may be the object of an intensive sociological and psychological study. In such studies, you usually avoid disturbing test subjects' environment. We talked about that earlier. You do not contact a colony of ants, blah, blah, blah. We talked about that earlier. So we do kind of know the three reasons, right? One, we could be a science experiment. You don't mess with the science experiment. You just let it play out and you conduct your research. Two, do we talk to ants? No, we don't. They coexist with us on this planet. They probably don't know of our existence, but we know of theirs. And three, the last one, do you talk to animals at the zoo? Besides saying, hey, you cute little animal. Besides that, you're not having intellectual conversations with animals at the zoo. So those are the three situations. I guess there's a fourth one. Such contact may have already taken place. Yeah, and that's what they said earlier. Such contact may have taken place already at a different plane of mind, like a different consciousness, right? Human fear and hostility. Besides the foregoing reasons, contacting humans is downright dangerous. Wow. Okay, so this is a very kind of this is a good reason not to contact us. Besides the foregoing reasons, contacting humans is downright dangerous. Think about that for a minute. On the microscopic level, our bodies reject and fight through production antibodies. Any alien material. So we Basically, anything that our body's not used to, we fight it off, is what they're talking about here. This process helps us fight off disease, but it also sometimes results in allergic reactions to innocuous materials. On that macroscopic, psychological, and sociological level, we are antagonistic to beings that are different. For proof of that, just watch how an odd child is treated by other children. Wow. Or how a minority group is socially deprived. Or how the Arabs feel about the Israelis, Chinese versus Japanese, Turks versus Greeks, etc. In case you are hesitant to extend that concept to the treatment of aliens, let me point out that in very ancient times, possible extraterrestrials may have been treated as gods, but in the last 2,000 years, the evidence is that any possible aliens have been ripped apart by mobs, shot and shot at, physically assaulted, and in general treated with fear and aggression. In Ireland, now, this part's really interesting, too. All right, before we get into that, think about that. This camera's going to go, and I'm not going to stop the whole project again. I'm going straight through with you, all right? So saying really good reasons why an alien civilization wouldn't want to contact us. I mean, those are really good reasons. We don't get along with each other. If we see minuscule differences, we blow it up. Always blow it up. Ever since, before the United States even, going to different countries, the Spaniards coming to the Americas, they didn't get along with, we stole all their gold and killed them all because we were different and we wanted their shit. So like, why? If I was an alien, why the fuck would I want to go and hang out with humans when all we do is fucking kill each other? So that seems like a legitimate reason to me. Anyways, let's get into this next part. This was actually mentioned, I believe, on the podcast last night, Joe Rogan podcast. This part is fucking freaky, all right? In Ireland, about 1000 AD, all right? Again, about 1,000 some change years ago. Supposed airships were treated as demon ships. In Lyons, France, admitted space travelers were killed. More recently, on 24 July 19... Bruh. Why do I feel like I read this, dude? Oh, is it just repeating itself now? Or maybe it's just because I fucking heard it on the podcast not too long ago. That's probably what it is. All right. Lyons, France admitted space travelers were killed. More recently, on 24 July 1957, Russian anti-aircraft batteries on the Coral Islands opened fire on UFOs. Although all Soviet anti-aircraft batteries on the island were in action, no hits were made. The UFOs were luminous and moved very fast. We, too, have fired on UFOs. About 10 o'clock one morning, a radar site near Okay, so he's basically in the textbook, they're talking about different countries that have fired at UFOs and then saying that, and confirming at least, that we have also fired at UFOs, fired weapons at UFOs. About 10 o'clock one morning, a radar site near a fighter base picked up a UFO doing 700 miles per hour. The UFO then slowed to 100 miles per hour. The two F-86s were scrambled to intercept. Eventually, one F-86 closed on the UFO at about 3,000 feet altitude. The UFO began to accelerate away, but the pilot still managed to get within 500 yards of the target for a short period of time. It was definitely saucer-shaped. As the pilot pushed the F-86 at top speed, the UFO began to pull away. When the range reached 1,000 yards, the pilot armed its guns and fired in an attempt to down the saucer. He failed, and the UFO pulled away rapidly, vanishing in the distance. This same basic situation may have happened on a more personal level on Sunday evening, 21 August 1955. 8 adults and 3 children were on the Sutton farm, 1/2 mile from Kelly, Kentucky, when, according to them, one of the children saw a brightly glowing UFO settle behind the barn out of sight from where he stood. Other witnesses on nearby farms also saw the object. However, the Suttons dismissed it as a shooting star and did not investigate. Approximately 30 minutes later, around 8 p.m., the family dogs began barking, so 2 of the men went to the back door and looked out. Approximately 50 feet away and coming toward them was a creature wearing a glowing silvery suit. It was about 3 1/2 feet tall with a large round head and very long arms. It had large webbed hands which were equipped with claws. The 2 Suttons grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun and a .22 caliber pistol. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm saying. Oh, yeah, that one's going to die on me. But we're rolling. What the fuck? All right, approximately 30 minutes. Okay, we got through that. Approximately 50 feet away and coming toward. Okay, so they grabbed the 22 caliber pistol. Okay, and fired at close range. They could hear the pellets and bullet ricochet as if off of metal. The creature was knocked down, but jumped up and scrambled away. The Suttons retreated into the house, turned off all the inside lights, and turned on the porch light. At the moment, one of the women who was peeking out of the dining room window discovered that a creature with some sort of helmet and wide slit eyes was peeking back at her. She screamed. The men rushed in and started shooting. The creature was knocked backwards, but again scrambled away without apparent harm. More shooting occurred, a total of about 50 rounds over the next 20 minutes, and the creatures finally left, perhaps feeling unwelcome. Is that a fucking joke, dude? Obviously. Stupid ass. I mean, would you want to come visit someone shooting shit at you? Probably not. After about a 2-hour wait for safety, the Suttons left too. By the time the police got there, the aliens were gone, but the Suttons would not move back to the farm. They sold it and departed. They said, "Fuck that." They left, bro. This reported incident does bear out the contention though that humans are dangerous. At no time in the story did the supposed aliens shoot back, although one is left with an impression that the described creatures were having fun scaring humans. Now that's fucking interesting. Attempts at scientific approaches. In any scientific endeavor, the first step is to acquire data. The second step is to classify the data, and the third step is to form hypotheses. The hypotheses are tested by repeating the entire process with each cycle resulting in an increase in understanding, we hope. The UFO phenomena does not yield readily to this approach because the data taken so far exhibits both excessive variety and vagueness. The vagueness is caused in part by the lack of preparation of the observer. Very few people leave their house knowing that they are going to see a UFO that evening. Photographs are overexposed or underexposed and rarely in color. Hardly anyone carries around a radiation counter or magnetometer. And in addition to this, there is a very high level of noise in the data. The noise consists of mistaken reports of known natural phenomena, hoaxes, reports by unstable individuals, and mistaken removal of data regarding possible unnatural or unknown natural phenomena. Yeah, there's still a bit. I guess I'm going to have to cut it there. I'm going to have to go into a part 3. I'm sorry, guys. This is getting out of hand, but I want to get to the bottom of it. So, all right. Hey, what's going on? All right, this is part 3, man. Listen, I broke out the beer, man, and I'm a sober dude. So I'm telling you, I broke out the beer is because you guys have earned that time with me. If you've made it this far into this episode, because I know not a lot of you guys watch the whole thing, but if you made it this far into the episode, guess what? We're only about halfway, so I'm breaking, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, I did not read ahead. We are still on course. Let's roll. All right. The last thing we touched on, I'm going to reread a little bit just so that I get refreshed, okay? One hypothesis which looked promising for a time was the Oh, no, that wasn't it, was it? What was it that I was looking for? Oh, man. Oh, dude. Am I going to be able to do this with you guys? All right. Attempts of scientific approaches. In any scientific endeavor, the first step is to acquire data. The second step is to classify the data, and the third step is to form a hypothesis. The hypotheses are tested by repeating the entire process, which each cycle resulting in an increase in understanding, we hope. The UFO phenomena does not yield readily to this approach because the data taken so far exhibits both excessive variety and vagueness. Yeah, that's how you master staying under the radar for thousands of years. Just straight up vagueness, just like, I mean, I don't want to get political, but I've been drinking a little bit, but kind of like politicians, real vague. Anyways, I'm just joking. Sorry, I'm gonna shut up. Let's roll. The vagueness is caused in part by the lack of preparation of the observer. Very few people leave their house knowing that they are going to see a UFO that evening. Photographs are overexposed and underexposed, and rarely in color. Hardly anyone carries around a radiation counter or magnetometer. And in addition to this, there is a very high level of noise in the data. The noise consists of mistaken reports of known natural phenomena, hoaxes, reports by unstable individuals, and mistaken removal of data regarding possible unnatural or unknown natural phenomena by overzealous individuals who are trying to eliminate all data due to known natural phenomena. In addition, those data which do appear to be valid exhibit an excessive amount of variety relative to the statistical samples which are available. This has led to a very clumsy classification system, which in turn provides quite unfertile ground for formulation of hypotheses. Look, man, I told you guys I was going to read you the chapter. The chapter that's been deleted from the textbook. You heard that. We got to take a break for an ad real quick. Or do we have to segue into an ad? Look, let me try to work on my segue skills, all right? Look, man. All right. Fuck it. Mango, all right? Mango White Claw. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like you are just a little too stressed out and you don't want to get back into those old ways, you know what I'm talking about? The old whiskey ways. The old hard motherfucking liquor ways. Get yourself a White Claw, man. Just, you know, rip the tip off that scab, you know what I mean, with a White Claw. You know what I'm saying? Just that fucking, you know, whatever, dude. It don't matter. Look, this is the TikTok phone, so there's going to be, like I said, man, this is unique just for those who stuck by this long. There's going to be no TikToks made out of this last half of this chapter. We're going through it, my friend. And it's just going to be for the YouTube video. So if you're and the Spotify. So if you made it through this fucking far, dude, congratulations. But we're still cruising through this chapter that's been deleted. Like I said, this is what the Air Force Academy was teaching cadets, those that we trust with our lives, at the Air Force Academy back in 1966. Okay? All right, let's continue. One hypothesis, which looked promising for a time, was that of the orthotony. Orthotony. UFO sightings fall on Great Circle routes. I guess that's orthotony. All right. At first, plots of sightings seemed to verify the concept of orthotony, but recent use of computers has revealed that even random numbers yield great circle plots as nearly as do UFO sightings. I don't know what the fuck that even means, dude. Great circle plots and circle routes, and what's that all mean? There's one solid advance that has been made though. Jacques and Janine Valley have taken a particular type of UFO, namely those that are lower than treetop level when sighted, and plotted the UFO's estimated diameter versus the estimated distance from the observer. The results yields an average diameter of 5 meters with a very characteristic drop for short viewing distances and rise for long viewing distances. The behavior at the extremes of the curve is well known to astronomers and psychologists as the moon illusion. The illusion only occurs when the object being viewed is a real physical object. Because this implies that the observers have viewed a real object, it permits us to accept also their statement that these particular UFOs had a rotational axis or symmetry. Huh. I don't know what the fuck, dude. Like, all right, so I guess it just seems like they're just coming up with theories about these UFOs. It's just now, a lot of this chapter just become like their theories. It seems like, and a lot of these theories, not even theories I've even thought of. Some of them are just like out there. Another less solid advance made by the Valleys was their plotting of the total number of sightings per week versus the date. They did this for the time span of 1947 to 1962, and then attempted to match the peaks of the curve every 2 years to 2 months. Every 2 years and 2 months to the times of Earth-Mars conjunction every 2 years and 1.4 months. The match was very good between 1950 and 1956, but was poor outside those limits. Also, the peaks were not only at the times of Earth-Mars conjunction, but also roughly at the first harmonic, very loosely every 13 months. This raises the question, why should UFOs only visit Earth when Mars is in conjunction when it is on the opposite side of the sun? Obviously, the conjunction periodically of Mars is not the final answer. As it happens, there is an interesting possibility to consider. Suppose Jupiter's conjunctions were used. They are every 13.1 months. Okay. That would satisfy the observed periods nicely. Except for every even data peak being of different magnitude from every odd data peak. Perhaps a combination of Martian, Jovian, and Saturnian, and even other planetary conjunctions will be necessary to match the frequency plot if it can be matched. Bruh, what? So I think they're trying to, like, it seems like line up the amount of sightings. I guess when the amount of sightings go up, they're trying to connect that with when we're closest to Mars in our rotation around the sun. And I don't really know if, I'm not sure if everything I just read, does that say that they were able to confirm that that's the case or not? Or if they just found a couple correlations. Weird. Okay. Let's go forward. Cycles of activity, mathematically corrected, long-term strong. Okay. Further data correlation is quite difficult. There are a large number of different saucer shapes, but this may mean little. For example, look at the number of different types of aircraft which are in use in the U.S. Air Force alone. That makes sense. What was just said. All right, so people ask questions like, why do all these UFOs look different? That doesn't make sense. They're all full of shit because they're all different. Well, like, look at all our make and models of cars. Look at all our make and models of aircraft. You know what I mean? We have thousands of different ones. Like, and we're just, you know what I mean? Like, basically compared to whatever these are, we're just like apes coming out of our Stone Age. So, like, weird. All right. It is obvious that intensive scientific study is needed in this area. No such study has yet been undertaken at the necessary levels of intensity and support. One thing that must be guarded against in any such study is the trap of implicity, assuming that our knowledge of physics or any other branch of science is complete. Oh, an example of one such trap is selecting a group of physical laws which we now accept as valid and assume that they will never be superseded. 5 such laws might be. And then I'm going to get into the list. But now listen to that, dude. Bruh. Okay, so right there in 1966, it seems like the Air Force came to terms with the fact that we have not finished learning physics, my friend. There's a lot that we still could learn, I guess. Number 1, every action must have an opposite and equal reaction. We accept that as law. Remember that. It might not be now, according to this. Number 2, every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force proportional to the product of the masses and inversely as the square of the distance. That's number 2. Number 3, energy, mass, and momentum are conserved. Number 4, no material body can have speed as great as c, the speed of light in free space. Yeah, we accept that as a truth. And is that, when you accept something as a truth, is that as far as study goes for that thing? Is that as far as it goes? We don't study it anymore. If we accept it as a truth, that's it. It's just true. Because the Air Force listed it in 1966 as something that you cannot accept as the final word. You know what I'm saying? And then the maximum energy, E, this number 5, which can be obtained from a body at rest, is E equals mc squared, where m is the rest mass of the body. That's beyond my fucking pay grade. Laws numbered 1 and 3 seem fairly safe, but let us hesitate and take another look. Actually, law number 3 is only valid now from a relativistic viewpoint. And what was number 3? Energy, mass, momentum are conserved. Energy, mass, and momentum are conserved. Is only valid now from the relativistic viewpoint, and for the matter, so are laws 4 and 5, which was no material body can have a speed as great as c, the speed of light in free space. And number 5, the maximum energy E, which can be obtained from body at rest, is E equals mc squared, where m is the rest, whatever. All right. But relatively completely revised these physical concepts after 1915. Before then, Newtonian mechanics were supreme. We should also note that general relativity has not yet been verified. Thus, we have the peculiar situation of 5 laws which appear to deny the possibility of intelligence, alien control of UFOs, yet 3 of the laws are recent in concept and may not even be valid. What the fuck? Also, law number 2 has not yet been tested under conditions of large relative speeds or accelerations. What was number 2 again? Every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force proportional to the product of the masses and inversely as the square of the distance. We should not deny the possibility of alien control of UFOs on the basis of preconceived notions not established as related or relevant to the UFOs. Now the conclusion, which is a couple of pages. How long do we got there? God, this is a fucking long one, man. From available information, the UFO phenomena appears to have been global in nature for almost 50,000 years. That's fucking insane. Did you hear that? From available information, the UFO phenomena appears to have been global in nature for almost 50,000 years. 50,000 years, bro. And you're learning it right now. I'm learning it right now, and I'm fucking 36 years old, dude. 50,000 fucking years these things been flying around, dude. In the airspace. Well before we even established it as airspace, and well into after our establishment of making airspaces. Fucking insane. The majority of known witnesses have been reliable people who have seen easily explained natural phenomena, and there appears to be no overall positive correlation with population density. So I guess it doesn't matter how many people are around. It doesn't matter. The entire phenomena could be psychological in nature, but that is quite doubtful. However, psychological factors probably do enter the data picture as noise. The phenomena could also be entirely due to known and unknown phenomena, with some psychological noise added in, but that too is questionable in view of some of the available data. I don't know. Are they trying to say that it's potentially just natural phenomena? Which, who knows? Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe the Earth over millions of years has evolved other things, just like it evolved us. Maybe it evolved little metallic drone things. I don't know. Who knows? This leaves us with the unpleasant possibility of alien visitors to our planet, or at least of alien-controlled UFOs. However, the data are not well correlated, and what questionable data there are suggests the existence of at least 3 or maybe 4 different groups of aliens, possibly at different stages of development. This too is difficult to accept. It implies the existence of intelligent life on a majority of of the planets in our solar system, or a surprisingly strong interest in Earth by members of other solar systems. What the fuck, bro? I just want to reiterate. This was chapter 33 in a textbook at the Air Force Academy in 1966 that was given to Air Force Academy cadets to study as a regular textbook. This chapter was pulled out back in 1966, supposedly because the UFO crazy people got a hold of it and started, asking for disclosure and stuff. And then, the government has to wash their hands of it and say you're crazy, da-da-da. But mind you, back in 1966, this was a freaking textbook that was given to Air Force cadets that protect your airspace. Look up right now. Given to people to protect that so that you don't get bombed and shit. This is what they were told to look for in chapter 33. Let's keep pushing. Just so you know, I want to reiterate that. All right. A solution to the UFO problem may be obtained by the long and diligent effort of a large group of well-financed and competent scientists. Unfortunately, there is no evidence suggesting that such an effort is going to be made. However, even if such an effort were made, there is no guarantee of success because of the isolated and sporadic nature of the sightings. Also, there may be nothing to find, and that would mean a long search with no proof at the end. The best thing to do is to keep an open and skeptical mind and not take an extreme position on any side of the question. And then it's got some references. Oh, it's got the introduction here. I don't know. Should I read the introduction to the chapter? Sure. Let's check out the introduction. I don't know why it's listed at the end of the chapter. Maybe it's just the way the kufon.org put it up. But let's check it out. Introduction to chapter 33. In this text, an attempt has been made to discuss all observable phenomena from the surface of the sun to the surface of the planets, particularly the planet Earth. It must be admitted, however, that some phenomena have been overlooked and that others are not presently explainable. In this latter category, we find unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. This is a very broad and all-inclusive subject since the unidentified... What? 1966, dude. UAP. We have all been calling them flying saucers and UFOs since 1966. The federal government already had the term UAP, the term that you learned like 2 years ago. They've been using it since 1966. UAP. The fuck out of here, bro. This is a very broad... And that just is an attestament to hiding everything. Like that's how good they are. They hid a 3-letter or 3-word acronym from the population since 1966 up until about 2 years ago, dude. That's how good these guys are at keeping fucking secrets. This is a very broad, all-inclusive subject since the unidentified depends on the experience and education of the observer. To an Aborigine, an airplane may be unidentified. Okay, so to an Aborigine, an airplane may be unidentified. That makes sense. While to a meteorologist, even such rare phenomena as noctilucent clouds and ball lightnings might be identifiable. Thus, sightings of unidentifiable aerial phenomena must be reported completely and investigated carefully to determine if they are indeed unidentifiable. There have been thousands of reports of unidentifiable aerial phenomena in the past quarter century, and a number of these reports are still listed as unidentifiable. This may be due to poor reporting, incomplete investigation, or to deficiencies in our understanding of the atmosphere and the universe at large. Okay. Unidentifiable means exactly how it sounds. We don't know what the fuck it is. We don't know where it's from. We don't know shit about it. That's what it means. It's just a lot of words basically saying that. The possibility that our scientific knowledge could be increased by study of these phenomena has led several organizations to explore the subject further. Obviously, people were okay. Obviously, it's just until now. Well, not even just till now, dude. We talk about disclosure, man. Disclosure's been going on for fucking years, man, decades. But it's just in the public light now, I guess, because everybody is watching the same screens. I don't know. But let's push further here. The popular literature uses the more restrictive term unidentified flying objects instead of the general unidentified aerial phenomena. Although there is insufficient evidence that the phenomena are very real physical objects, or indeed that they are flying, we will adopt the popular terminology to avoid confusion. Okay. Consequently, we will define an unidentified flying object (UFO) as any reported aerial phenomena or object which is unknown or appears out of the ordinary to the observer. Next paragraph. While there are purported UFO reports dating from ancient times. Here we go. While there are purported UFO reports dating from ancient times, the subject of UFOs really was thrust upon the American public shortly after World War II, when Kenneth Arnold on 24 June 1947 reported seeing the 9 saucer-like objects near Mount Rainier. This was the first in a series of UFO reports which has continued to the present. The newly organized U.S. Air Force was assigned the mission of determining if the UFOs represented a threat to the national security. The investigation was concluded under Project Sign, SIGN, later Project Grudge, and finally Project Blue Book, which ended on 17 December 1969. Because of a rash of UFO reports in 1952, the fears that military communication channels could be clogged by enemy-investigated UFO reports, as special scientific panel chaired by the late Dr. H.P. Robertson was established under government sponsorship in January 1953 to study the UFO problem. The panel concluded that there was no evidence in the available data that UFOs were a threat to national security. These scientists recommended that a campaign be conducted to produce better public understanding of the situation and also to remove the aura of mystery surrounding the subject. This latter goal has not yet been completely achieved. All right, so I guess back in the 60s and 50s, they actually wanted to let the public know. It just never happened, just never came about. I don't know. Where we at? Got some time. After this, Project Blue Book continued to receive and evaluate UFO reports, but the conclusions reached were not always accepted by ufologists and the general public. The Air Force was often accused of trying to cover up the UFO problem and of withholding information allegedly indicating the UFOs are extraterrestrial. Consequently, a panel headed by Dr. Brian O'Brien was empowered to review Project Blue Book in 1966, while this commission reaffirmed that there was no apparent security threat posed by the existence of unexplained UFO reports. It suggested that a detailed study of some of the reports might produce something of scientific value. The commissions recommended that a few selected universities be engaged to provide scientific teams for prompt investigation of selective UFO sightings. Consequently, in 1966, the U.S. Air Force sponsored a $500,000 investigation led by Dr. Edward U. Condon of the University of Colorado to make a scientific investigation of UFOs, not necessarily to identify UFOs, but only to determine if there is a scientific merit in the study of them. Wow, motherfuckers, man. What? It just pisses me off, man. I feel like we should have the right to know that shit since the 60s, man. Motherfuckers have died like really wanting to know the truth, dude. And they'll never know. And I'm sorry, it just pisses me off a little bit, bro. I'm just getting fucking frustrated a little bit. It's like, dude, come on, man. Motherfuckers, bro. How dare you keep that shit from us, man? Who the fuck are you, bro? I'm sorry. But what the fuck, dude? Are you serious? Who are you to say what I can and cannot know? God, man. God. People go their whole lives wondering if there's an answer to questions like, are we ever alone? And they'll die with those questions never answered. But these motherfuckers had the answer since the fucking 60s, bro. At least since the 60s. Sorry. In any scientific investigation, we establish a hypothesis or hypotheses, collect data, analyze the data in light of our hypotheses, and then refute or confirm our hypotheses or conclude that we have insufficient data to do either. Approximately 6% of the UFO reports collected by Project Blue Book are officially listed as unexplained. If we propose to explain these remaining cases, we must first set up a list of possible explanations. There is always the danger in the procedure that the true explanation for a particular event is not contained in the given set of priori hypotheses. Priori hypothesis. With this note of caution before us, we adopt a set of hypotheses proposed by Dr. James McDonald of the University of Arizona. Another doctor that had the information we didn't back in the 60s, my friend. Hoaxes, fabricate, all these things. That was the list they came up with that we talked about earlier. Hoaxes, hallucinations, advanced terrestrial technologies, potentially misinterpretations of well-understood physical phenomena, poorly understood physical phenomena, poorly understood physical or psychological phenomena, extraterrestrial visitation, messengers of salvation, occult truth. So these guys came up with a list of different or whatever. God, I'm really upset, bro, a little bit. I'll go a little bit longer, but there's going to be probably a fourth part to this. Hoaxes, fabrications, and frauds. There is no question that some UFO reports are hoaxes, fabrications, and frauds perpetrated by persons playing pranks with candles and plastic cleaning bags, persons faking photographs, persons seeking notoriety or recognition, and practical jokers. The UFO literature is replete with examples of all types. However, confirmed hoaxes are only a small percentage of the total number of UFO reports. Most reports are by reliable witnesses and show no evidence of fabrication or fraud. Keep that in mind. The United States Air Force knew in the 60s, in the 1960s, that the majority of reports were legitimate by credible sources, that the small minority were hoaxes. This is what they were teaching cadets that you trusted with your airspace in the 60s. I'm not going to go through all these. There's hallucinations. Hallucinations, that could be the individual person, medical problems. Let's go to the next one. Advanced terrestrial technologies. All right. Test vehicles, satellites, re-entry phenomena, secret weapons. The noted space scientist Arthur C. Clarke has observed that any sufficiently advanced technology will appear indistinguishable from magic. Thus, advanced terrestrial technologies are certainly the cause of some reports. The reported characteristics of UFOs do not appear to have changed markedly over the years, while man has made great technological progress. Thus, while some current UFO reports may be attributable to space vehicle re-entries or satellite launches, the reports in the 40s and early 50s cannot be attributed to these causes. Yeah, that's true. We weren't launching rockets in and out of the atmosphere back in the 40s. And early 50s. Similarly, advanced weapon systems in the development and test stages, secret weapons, now would give rise to a different type of UFO report from those of earlier eras. The variety and worldwide distribution of UFO reports make it unlikely that the reports are due to sightings of products of an advanced terrestrial technology. It's basically saying that it's unlikely that this shit is from humans. It's unlikely. It's more likely that it's an alien technology. And then there's lay misinterpretations, which is obviously, like they were talking about earlier, that there's probably indigenous tribes that would look at an airplane and see it as a UFO or UAP because they don't understand what an airplane is or never seen one before. That's what that one was. And poorly understood physical phenomena. Again, I'm just leaving that up to the layman. You just don't know what you're looking at. Just maybe a lot of those, maybe older accounts. And it's crazy. Someone's got that documentation. If the Air Force was putting it in textbooks, the federal government has documentation of some kind of information that they have had since the fucking at least. Now this guy's touching on reports from the 40s and 50s, okay, but at least since the 60s, we knew of shit that have happened or had detailed information of potential incidents in history that may have occurred of up to 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years ago. Detailed, potentially detailed. I don't know. All I know is a couple of them were detailed, not up to 50,000, but the 1,000 years ago, the French were calling them sky demons or whatever. And then, biblically, they were calling them chariots of the gods. Like, that's how they described them back then. That was the best of their ability. They were laymen. They fell under poorly understood physical phenomena. They fell under those categories. But back then, they were guaranteed no fucking airplanes flying around, right? And I think the first air balloon, hot air balloon, was like in the 1800s. The first rocket that we have recorded history of, the first rocket, I'm pretty sure it was the Chinese. And I'm talking about like, oh my God, was this like 2,000 years ago? And that's the first rocket. If we're talking about aerial flight, I think it was the Chinese as well. They flew a man on a kite. And this was fucking thousands of years ago too. So it's like what we knew back then as laymen, as regular humans, was not, if we saw anything flying in the sky that, you know what I mean? Like that shit's unidentified, bro. And they were writing that shit down. And apparently up to about 50,000 years ago, there's at least some kind of record of seeing some weird shit. So I don't know. We're going to have to roll into part 4. Sorry, guys, but it's just, it'll probably be a shorter part because there's not a whole lot left. So, yeah, the next one is extraterrestrial visitation, and we'll roll into that next. I'll leave it here. All right, what's up, you guys? So today we're finishing this thing. This is the 4th time I've come in here to finish this chapter that was removed from a textbook back in 1966 that was given to Air Force Academy cadets in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We were getting into some of the classifications of a couple of these different hypotheses, all right? And we were on number 7, all right, extraterrestrial visitation. Dr. Condon states in the summary of scientific study of unidentified flying objects that convincing the unequivocal evidence of extraterrestrial visitation would be the greatest single scientific discovery in the history of mankind. Obviously, okay. While this may be a slight exaggeration, it at least points out why this hypothesis adds so much excitement and controversy to the UFO problem. Despite numerous UFO reports concerning purported space vehicles and alien visitors, there remains doubt as to the veracity of these reports. Such reports do, however, contain a number of strange elements that are verifiable. One would prefer hard evidence in the form of a tail fin, a jettison propulsion unit, a crashed UFO, several good photographs, etc. So basically just begging for evidence back in the 60s, which seems like we're starting to get a lot more evidence now as our technology's evolved. I mean, now we're in 2023, but just in 2004 is when we got, the Captain David Fravor's fighter jet used all its instruments to record data that correlated with what he was seeing. So just, I guess our means of collecting evidence has evolved into what it is now, which is obviously a lot more proficient. So back then they were begging for all the evidence they could get. It was just harder for them to get. It just seems like that's what they're saying here. Such physical evidence does not seem to exist, despite stories to the contrary. Several scientists have concluded that the priori probability of extraterrestrial visitation appears to be exceedingly low in terms of present scientific knowledge, although no conclusive proof to be as to the validity of this hypothesis can be drawn from the evidence at hand. A panel of the National Academy of Sciences has concluded that on the basis of present knowledge, the least likely explanation of UFOs is the hypothesis of extraterrestrial visitations by intelligent beings. So, I guess as of 1966, the United States Air Force believed that was the least probable explanation for these sightings was extraterrestrial visitation. All right, so that's just the Air Force's opinion, I guess, back in the 60s. Number 8. This is the final one before we get to the conclusion. Messengers of salvation and occult truth. Certain cults have adopted the belief that the mission of UFOs is spiritual and that all physical efforts to determine the nature of UFOs must necessarily fail. Which may be the case. Evidence to support it is clearly lacking. Further discussion of the hypothesis is beyond the scope of of this text. Basically, I guess number 8 is just we're not meant to know. It's just simple as that. And maybe, you know what, you can't really argue with that knowledge, man, or that logic, Maybe we're just not meant to know. Maybe it's just, maybe it's another dimension, and dimensions aren't supposed to cross paths. It's just the visitors. Maybe they've found a way to cheat the system and found a way to jump from dimension to dimension. Who knows? But maybe we're just not supposed to cross paths with them. Maybe it's just the unwritten rule of the universe. Who knows? Now in conclusion. Having presented the arguments for each of the hypotheses, possible conclusions are now considered. It is apparent that no single hypothesis can account for all UFO reports. Hypotheses 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are obviously valid and, as a group, account for a large number of UFO reports. However, the evidence is insufficient to conclude that all UFO reports can be attributed to these causes. Hypothesis number 8 is unlikely to yield to any form of scientific analysis, so we eliminate it from further consideration. Oh, the one we just talked about, the last one about how it's just not meant to be known, they took that hypothesis and eliminated it because if we're not meant to know it, and that's a hypothesis, then that's where the studying ends. Does that make sense? In order to continue studying, you have to disregard the 8th hypothesis, which makes a lot of sense. That's so weird. But yeah, it's weird. If hypotheses 5, 6, and 7 are scientifically the most interesting since they offer the possibility of new knowledge about ourselves and our environment, as indicated above, hypothesis 5 and 6 require additional research on poorly understood phenomena before conclusions can be reached as to their bearing on the UFO problem. At this time, there appears to be insufficient evidence available to either confirm or refute hypothesis 7. And remember, hypothesis 7 was the extraterrestrial visitation, which I think it's legitimate, man. I mean, I think that's a pretty straightforward. A lot of those hypotheses, man, a number of them could be true. Who the fuck knows? I mean, apparently they didn't in the 60s. The Air Force didn't. That's why they had 7 or 8 of them, One additional note of caution must be included at this point. In most of this chapter, we have discussed primarily and scientific implications of the UFO question. However, the Lorenzens contend the Lorenzens? I don't know who the fuck the Lorenzens are. Contend that UFOs are primarily an emotional problem, secondly, a political problem, and only incidentally, a scientific problem. They feel that when the emotional and political problems have been resolved, the entire UFO problem will yield to scientific investigation. UFOs are too tied up into politics to let science touch it. Here's what it sounds like there. All right. Is such scientific investigation likely to be conducted? At least one major scientific study has been made. Dr. Condon, like we talked about earlier, and his University of Colorado project ended their scientific study of unidentified flying objects in late 1968 with the general conclusion. Remember, this chapter was pulled in 1966, so whatever's here, I think, is just a conclusion of. Remember, CUFON, the Computer UFO Network.org, they're the ones that posted this on their database. So maybe this is just a conclusion of what they've analyzed from the chapter. Based on conclusions of the Condon Report and its own 20-year UFO experience, the Air Force terminated Project Blue Book in December 1969 with the final statement: as a result of investigating UFO reports since 1948, the conclusions of Project Blue Book are: 1. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force has ever given any indication of threats to our national security, and 2, there has been no evidence submitted to or discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represent technological developments or principles beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge, and 3, there has been no evidence indicating that sightings categorized as unidentified are extraterrestrial vehicles. It just sounds like a lot of evidence over the course of the last, couple thousand years, but just no confirmation, man. Whatever they are, they don't want to be known. They don't give a shit about being known, man. I don't know. That makes you think, I think the science project idea, I think that's kind of the most logical. As much as we try to mess with them, and apparently shoot them down, right? They don't want to officially be affiliated with us. Take it as it is, man. It's just they don't like us. or we're just test subjects. We're just a research project, which makes freaking sense, man. Seems like it makes sense to me. Consequently, there is presently no official government agency investigating UFO reports. Dr. McDonald and several private UFO investigative agencies have decreed alleged inadequacies of the Condon Report and Project Blue Book, and urged that the entire subject be reinvestigated. Specifically, Project Blue Book, during its existence, was criticized for superficial investigation of UFO reports, low level of scientific competence among its personnel, and unreasonable explanations concerning specific UFO reports. Criticisms of the Condon Report conclude the contention that the conclusions reached are not supported by the bulk of the evidence in the report itself, and that the firing of 2 staff members for incompetence before the completion of the final report raises questions concerning the objectivity and completeness of the study. While some of the criticisms may possibly be justified, it is unlikely that any new official scientific studies will be forthcoming, primarily because the conclusions of the Condon Report have been so widely accepted. Final paragraph. The UFO problem must now compete on its scientific merit with all the other pressing scientific problems facing mankind. To receive attention from scientists and the requisite economic support, the potential rewards from UFO research must be shown to be commensurate with the resources expended. I don't know what the fuck that means. Although the Condon Committee cautioned that nothing worthwhile was likely to result from such research, it suggested that all the agencies of the federal government and private foundations should be willing to consider UFO research proposals along with the others submitted to them on an open-minded, unprejudiced basis. And that's it, man. And then, it credits the Air Force regulation, unidentified flying out. It's an Air Force text. It references, and then it references what we know about flying saucers, written by Otto Binder in 1967, references Condon, based off his report, was scientific study of unidentified flying objects. The Lorenzen, some other writers in 1969, and then so I guess they're referencing everything, all the information they got here, or where it came from. But the chapter that was in there, the meaty stuff, that was, remember, from Introductory to Space Science, Volume 2, Chapter 33, all right? The chapter that was removed after it was, I guess, discovered by the public majority. They removed that chapter from textbook Introductory Space Science, Volume 2, Chapter 33. They removed Chapter 33 in 1966. And it's been, I guess, gone since. But Kufan's got it up. Like I said, cufon.org if you want to check it out. Yeah, man, this has been the longest podcast I've done. So this has taken a lot of work last couple of days. And I know you guys only see the face value of what I'm doing here, but there's a lot of fucking shit. Okay. But hey, man, if you made it this far, I really appreciate you guys and I love you guys. And check it out, man. what we discovered, pretty crazy stuff. Okay, apparently the Air Force was well aware back in the '60s about some credible evidence left in the archaeological timeline of up to, if not 50,000 years ago, per the Air Force doctrine, per the textbook that the Air Force was handing out to cadets at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado in the 1960s. So take a look at it. It's really interesting stuff. If not, then enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm gonna take off. I love you guys. Please like, follow, subscribe to the Treeline Podcast, and I appreciate you. I love you. And thanks for sticking it out for this 2 fucking hours or whatever it was. Deuces. Love you guys.